Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about the animation industry. Are we allowed to talk about the animation?
I don't care. I'm going to talk about it anyway.
Are we allowed to? Do we have the permission of the animation industry to talk about?
Don't care. I'm going to talk about it anyway.
So let's talk about this. This is the guild battle that's been going on. Apparently, they did ratify this new contract. There are concerns about the new contract because of AI. And I guess the AI provisions are not exactly what some people were hoping for, but we're going to go through what they agreed to. And look, I mean, my personal opinion on this is if you can get that money and you can get better working conditions, get it. Okay. Mm-hmm. The realist to me is telling you that you're living on borrowed time. A lot of people, not everybody. I think we're always going to need people in the animation industry, even if a lot of the grunt work is being done with AI. But it's very unrealistic to believe that everything is going to go along as it has been forever. Just because, technology marches on, and ask all those 2D animators that got displaced by 3D how things are going for them.
Yep.
So let's talk about all this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, rants, guys. You'll get a woohoo if you do.
Woohoo!
Go out to clownfishminus.com, check out our merch, check out our Plus Club. We're going to be ramping all this stuff up in 2025. You can also get the same content at clownfishtv.locals.com. So we'll talk about this. For those of you that have been following along, the Animation Guild has been looking for a new contract, and they're looking for better working conditions and better pay. Of course, that's usually what people go on strike for. The problem here, the wrinkle, the fly in the ointment is that, and we're going to talk more about that later, is that a lot of the buyers of animation are not buying as much animation as they were.
No, they just don't have the money.
Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon are all but imploded at this point. Warner Brothers is really cutting back on stuff. Netflix, they seem content to bring over a lot of stuff from Japan.
Yeah, I think that, Netflix is doing that, Hulu's doing it, Disney's doing it, several places are doing that, both K-drama and anime. But
for those of you who are left, you will get a much better deal. But again, see also the WGA, see also, AMP tip. And there were some notable holdouts on this. And we're going to talk about AI because it's getting freakishly good. I don't think people realize how good it's getting. And look, I do believe for 100% that you're always going to have a human component. But like we've been saying the entire time, instead of having 100 people working on a project, you might only need 10 people working on a project.
We're not saying it's right. We're just saying that's the reality.
I'm just saying that's the way it is, guys. It's coming from Variety. Animation Guild ratifies contract despite AI fears. They said they ratified the contract with the major studios despite concerns from some about protections against AI. So they announced that 76% of their members voted in favor of the deal. It's actually down because before it was like 80-some%. They said, this agreement is the next step forward in our goal to create the strongest contract for our members. Steve Kaplan said, the business representative for the union. The 3-year contract includes raises of 7%, 4%, 3.5% across the board, as well as higher gains for specific crafts. Among them is a provision requiring pay equity for color designers, which has been traditionally female-dominated, and a staffing minimum for TV animation writers.
You have to get that staffing minimum in there.
Yeah, so that's always, well, some of them are represented by the WGA, because I saw that they had a deal with, I think it was PBS. They signed a deal with them, which makes sense, being PBS, but I'm like, there's not nearly as much content being produced, as there was. But this is true. So for those of you who do know a little bit about animation history, it was very hard for women to get into animation at the beginning, especially at Disney. They were like, no, you can work in the ink and paint department, but you can't be an actual animator. That's silly. Yeah, that's
men's work.
That's man's work. We have the 9 old men, right? That's how it works. So they said the deal did not include most of the negotiators' more ambitious demands. So this is interesting, such as provisions allowing members to opt out of using AI in their jobs and to opt out of having their work used to train AI systems. Okay, that is actually very interesting. So they can't, so if you're working for one of these studios, you can't even say, hey, I don't want my stuff to train AI.
But the flip side is, and this is the same with comics and stuff too, if you are work for hire, and your work at the company is owned by the company. You're being paid for that work, so it's owned by the company. So they can totally train AI with your work.
Yeah.
Because they own it. I mean, they're taking your work that's outside of work. That's different. But you work for hire, they own what you do. It is what it is.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it doesn't matter who you are or what the company is. They're going to take your stuff anyway. I retweeted yesterday the guy who did the Charlie the Unicorn, the Charlie the Unicorn skits. Remember Charlie the Unicorn? Yeah. Well, Warner Brothers apparently took the audio from the Charlie the Unicorn short and used it in a commercial for their Multiverses video game without his knowledge. Yeah, they just took it. This is an independent animator. It was a viral video, and Warner Brothers just took it.
That's different.
You know what sucks about that is then Warner Brothers will strike you for using their music or reacting to their videos or whatever, but they have no problem with just taking somebody else's stuff.
But what would even get interesting would be that if that guy himself wanted to run his own audio, Warner Brothers lawyers will strike him.
Probably.
Because that happened like back with the Amber Heard stuff. They were putting him on the video for the thing for Netflix, and people that they stole the videos from were reacting to, or they took it from him or whatever, were reacting to the videos that was using their parts, and then they got copyright struck for reacting to their own video.
Yeah, it was on Netflix because Netflix, basically what happens is they upload the video or whatever and they run it through the AI does all this stuff.
And it's like, hell no. And see, that's different though, because you're not talking about someone who's worked for hire at the company. No. Yeah, I'm not talking about people who do their own things that happen to work for something that they don't own. I'm talking about stuff on the clock. Yeah,
because the studio could say, hey, regardless of what you're working on, it could be like, we own this if we want to license it out to whatever, OpenAI or something to train their models to train Sora, we can do it because they're giving us millions of dollars. They're doing it with the New York Times right now to train ChatGPT.
Yeah, but the New York Times agreed to it, though.
They agreed to
That's the difference.
But their individual journalists don't really get a say, do they?
No, because it was work for hire, and then the outlet owns their work. I'm sorry, that's how it works. Same with comics.
The Alliance of AMPTIP, the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, also did not agree to guild-wide staffing minimums.
Well, I didn't think they were going to. They didn't really agree to it much in the WGA thing.
No. That led to some discontent among membership, and 4 members of a 56-member negotiating committee publicly said no. The director of the Mitchells versus the Machines said no. He said they were far from what we're going for in terms of AI, and he warned that the lack of protections would cost a lot of members their jobs. So let me... I
agree that's exactly what's going to happen.
Let me show you just how good it's getting. And look, this isn't... I want to be very clear. What we're getting is a glimpse of the future, right? We're getting a glimpse of the future. It's far from perfect, but in the right hands, this is going to be a game changer for a lot of studios, and you're going to see that you need way fewer people. Really, the biggest problem with animation and with video, any of that stuff right now, is consistency, getting it to be consistent from scene to scene, and they're working on that now. They're actually... I think Pika is one of the AI out there that you can actually feed it references like photos or whatever. And I imagine in the future, they'll just do kind of like they do with action figures of, like Star Wars characters or whatever. They'll do like a full body scan and just feed that actor, into the system, and it'll be consistent. But this is what they came up with. Yeah, this is Pika 2 model. So, and there are some things obviously that are like, look at the blurring on the hands and stuff like that. But if you can imagine them, studios using this as a base and getting the characters consistent and getting the backgrounds consistent, and then just having a couple of people go in and tweak this, you're talking how many hundreds or thousands of hours saved. And this is just a very, remember just a year or two ago that people were posting videos of Will Smith with a whole bunch of trying to eat spaghetti and a whole bunch of different mouths and stuff like that. And this, obviously you're looking at this, it's like, the bird's
just standing still, but the wings are flapping. Yeah.
But even the backgrounds, the backgrounds could be generated.
2 polls there a minute ago.
Yeah. The backgrounds could be generated, and you could actually pop some characters into that, and the camera rotation, all that. It's absolutely going to change things. So that's why they're saying, we're not going to agree to staffing minimums, because if they can get away with paying 10 people instead of 100 people, they're going to do it.
Right. Right. And I think that was their way to try to work around it. Yeah. But, and again, people are like, you just want, nope, we're not saying it's right or wrong. We're just telling you this is what is going to happen. Gosh, I'm so tired of people conflating the two.
And it's going to get harder and harder to make a case to not use AI as it becomes just another tool in the tool set. And that's what's going, just like 3D animation. I mean, I remember animators fighting tooth and nail against 3D, and then even Disney, which was one of the last holdouts, was like, you know what? Let's just everything's 3D now. That's it. See ya. The advancements made here are plenty, but there is also much work to be done with regard to addressing the priority matters that were not fully answered. He said in the statement, the membership made clear to us there is a need for more focus on generative AI, and we will attack the issue through a multifaceted approach, including lobbying for effective legislation.
Okay, so now they're going to try to go get laws made because they couldn't win with the studios. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
So now they're going to try to get laws passed.
You know who's going to be president next year, right? I don't think it's going to go the way you think it's going to go. Advocating for tax incentives for human-made work and grieving against potential abuses. It does include guardrails that are broadly similar to those offered to other unions.
Yeah, we already saw how that goes.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they said they will tell you if they're going to use it. You can opt out, but you know what's going to happen if you opt out? They're going to say, see ya.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's what apparently people claimed happened.
Yeah, deal also includes notification and consultation, which supporters said would lead to a dialogue. There's not going to be much. I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't think there's going to be much.
Their lawyers are already probably figuring where the loopholes are already.
They already are. So let's segue into this then. I think we have, we're going to talk about this. This dropped this morning. Hollywood CEOs show their cards on what they think is valuable and what isn't. And they're beginning to pick winners and losers in their portfolios as they adapt to a rapidly changing business environment. We know right now, and this isn't to be, again, Debbie Downer, but Disney Channel's not producing as much animation as they used to. Cartoon Network doesn't even exist now. It's hard to tell. They're doing some HBO specials or something, but I don't think they have a lot of love for animation. This is Warner Brothers, like they used to. It just seems like they don't have very much love for animation. They keep canceling stuff. God, they memory hold a bunch of Cartoon Network shows, took them off of streaming.
Yeah.
Got rid of the physical, they just disappeared like Infinity Train. Poof, where'd it go?
Yeah.
Nobody knows. But they said they're already starting to shake out what they think is important, what isn't. Comcast's decision to spin out most of its cable channels, and Warner Brothers Discovery's move to restructure itself by separating its linear cable channels and studios and streaming businesses are being done in the name of potential deal making and Wall Street hand waving. And I know that the guy who did was Ian Jones-Cordy, who did OKKO, was talking that he blamed Trump last time for the cancellation of that show and for Cartoon Network collapsing because of the regulations being eased up and for all the mergers and stuff like that. And I think it's going to happen again. Yeah, no, I mean, they're already cutting a lot of things. And we said this is going to happen back when the strikes were last year. That they used the opportunity to get rid of a lot of shows that were just dead weight, that they're just spending money on, that weren't bringing anything, to streamline it and bring it under control. And animation, I think you're going to see the same thing. They're just going to get rid of some things, and then what they keep, they're going to find ways to make it cheaper. Yeah, that's exactly what they're going to do. And look, I mean, it's kind of a weird juxtaposition because this year we had Inside Out 2 do really well. We had Moana 2 do really well. We had in the last couple of years, there have been some big hits, Super Mario Brothers and all that. And those tent poles are doing well. Bluey is doing incredibly well, right? Mm-hmm. But they're few and far between. So for every Bluey, you've got a dozen streaming cartoon series that never went anywhere. Mm-hmm. No one watches, yeah. Remember that Sci-Fi, they had that whole thing, they were doing all this adult animation. Most of that stuff never went anywhere. Mm-mm. So I don't know. I'm not trying to be, again, because people think we're being Debbie Downer, but whatever. I don't give a shit. What you want. Kiss my butt. Don't care. I don't give a shit. I'm just telling you, automation comes for everybody at some point in time. It's just the nature of the beast. And, no one's immune from being outsourced. No one's immune from having their job made obsolete. 100%. On the other side of this, there's going to be a lot fewer. I mean, you might get raises. You might get some of the things you want. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying what's going to happen is the reality is there's going to be a lot less that, those that get more,
but not everybody's going to get to stay. And you can get pissed all you want about that. It's the reality.
Yeah. So what is happening here is I think there's an existential crisis. I think we have a lot of young creatives, whether it's animation or video games or comic books or whatever, and they're looking at the situation, or they want to be. There were a lot of wannabes out there. And they're looking at it, they're like, oh my God, there's not going to be a job for me. I'm like, well, the other way of looking at it is if you're truly entrepreneurial, there's never been a better time to become a creative and become an independent creative, because the tools that you have access to right now, that an individual or a small studio have access to right now, were completely unthinkable even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think the other way... But
you answered your own question. Those are entrepreneurial. A lot of them aren't. A lot of people just want to go into the cartoon factory and have a seat handed to them.
Pretty much, yeah.
I want to go storyboard, and then they're going to sit in the seat, and then that's what they want. They want a seat handed to them that just for them. Right. The problem is musical chairs, and whoever's, the ones that stay are the ones that they get stuff done, and that they want to work with for whatever reason. It might not be you. It might be you.
Yeah.
But a lot of the people are going to be left out in the cold. And that is just the way it is. And didn't say it's right, but that's the reality. And reality doesn't change just because you don't like it.
No, you have to make
sadly.
You have to make yourself invaluable. You have to make yourself
right. Or find
special.
A way to spin yourself off that you can, pivot. And a lot of people don't want that. They don't want to have to try. They just want to be given a 9 to 5, or, well, just be honest, a lot more hours than that. But you know what I mean.
Well, we had people that were complaining that they went to school for art and they wound up working retail. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry.
That happens a lot, actually.
It happens a lot. So make sure you have a backup career too. I think any creative, this is one piece of advice, if you don't listen to anything else we say, is make sure you have marketable skills that are not tied to the creative industries, that if everything implodes, you have something else you can do to feed yourselves, right?
Plus, some of those skills might actually help you, and they might be more valuable to keep. So
that is true. So we're going to wrap this up.
Yes.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.